course, coming to you live from Yogi's here on this Wednesday night. Indiana down in Tallahassee taking on the Florida State Seminoles, and they end up losing this game in overtime. But, Todd, I got to tell you, I was shocked by the performance of Indiana. They came out. I thought this is a game they were going to be down 8, 10, 12 points the whole game. Florida State, a big team, bigger than Texas. But, man, Indiana came to play tonight.
Yeah, they did. I mean, they played – you hear coaches say it all the time, you've got to play a full 40 minutes, in this case 45 minutes. But Indiana played really well, and I thought outplayed Florida State, especially on the boards for, 37 minutes in the ballgame. And Indiana had an 8 rebound advantage with about 3 minutes to go in the game, and it ended up being tied. And truly that was the difference in the 4 possessions to tie the game in regulation. And then in overtime, it seemed like they just had a second shot every time down the floor. And that was the killer overall in the end.
And this is an Indiana team that's without Joey Bronk, so you're without one of your big guys in the middle. And Florida State's a team that had 3 guys over 6'11", but they're also big in the front court. You've got a 5-star freshman that is 6'9" in Barnes. And so they're big, just front to back. But, wow, Indiana shockingly battled them all night long. You mentioned out-rebounding. I don't even know how that's possible. You got to hustle a lot and work hard and keep the fundamentals and stay in your places to do what they did tonight.
And you do. You got to block out. The fundamentals of blocking out have to obviously be a big factor in it. But you've got to have rebounding from everywhere, including the guards. And I think that's been an emphasis for Armaan Franklin for this year. I mean, he finishes the game with 8 rebounds. I think that ties another career high. I think he had 8 already once this year. So that's a positive. There's a lot of positives you can take out of this game. I think, not to be Johnny Negative all the time, but I think we're going to continually all year long sit here and talk about, the lack of ability to shoot the ball. And that's just frustrating. I mean, I say it to you all the time. To me, it doesn't really matter how many they take. They've got to be able to make, I think, 8 to 12, but even 7 plus 3-pointers in a game gives you a gigantic advantage in winning. And in this game, they only make 4 3-point field goals. And, I mean, you're not going to beat very good teams by only making 4 threes. And in today's basketball, you're not going to do it.
If this team could shoot, they'd be a top 5 team. They're just missing that one thing. But that one thing allows you to do so many different things differently because they've got guys, they're not strong in the middle, but wow, you look at Trayce Jackson-Davis and what he did tonight, 25 points, 8 of 15 from the field. He was 9 of 12 at the free throw line, 17 rebounds. That dude was working his butt off tonight.
He was, and think about it, you talked about him. He's playing against big-time talent, big guys, big physical guys. They talked all game long. Jay Billis talked about how physical this game was. And it was Indiana had an advantage in that because of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten plays more physical basketball. But Trayce Jackson-Davis is he's a great college basketball player. Like he is. Last year he was a really good college basketball player. I think right now he's on the borderline of being a great college basketball player. Obviously everyone says if he can add that mid-range jump shot to it, then it makes him that much better. But those are facts. I mean, coaches will sit here and nitpick. There's mistakes that every single team makes throughout a basketball game. And there are things that you can do to overcome those. Shooting the basketball overcomes a lot of mistakes. And so unfortunately, because Indiana is not a great shooting team, they can't make those other mistakes. And when you have out rebounded, I mean, Jim, you and I saw it during the game. With 3 minutes to go, Indiana had an 8 rebound advantage in this game, and I don't want to say they were dominating, but they were kind of controlling the game, and all of a sudden that went away, and I would definitely say it didn't seem like they were controlling the game from the final 3 minutes in regulation on through overtime. So it was that rebounding situation. If you would have told Archie Miller ahead of time, or told you and me as fans ahead of time that Indiana was going to tie Florida State in rebounding, I think we would have all said Indiana's going to have a decent chance of winning if that's the case, and they were just that close.
Well, I would have been shocked again.
Yeah, I would too. I would have bet against it for sure.
And Indiana's a team that hasn't use the transition as well as we'd like to see him. So we didn't know what. I'm like, all right, how are you going to compete with a team that's so big if you're not doing something different? But they did. And they did it shorthandedly. Like I said, you don't have Joey Brunk, so you're minus that. But the guards did an unbelievable job getting in there. You talked about Al Durham, who I didn't expect to play. I didn't think he was in this game tonight. At 8 rebounds, that's killer.
No, Armand had 8 rebounds. But Al, you're right. Like Al looked like the ankle injury never took place. Like he looked great in the game, and I thought he moved well. It just, it came down to a situation, I think, with Al. I mean, he shoots 3 for 10 for the game. He has 5 rebounds himself. I mean, the guard position, 5 rebounds for him. Finney with no rebounds. So still 13 rebounds out of the guards. You're going to take that about every night.
Absolutely. And then, again, we talk about the shooting. Not there from the outside. That's the only thing that did not work tonight.
It is, but it's a big thing. And you know what?
It's gigantic.
This is what is frustrating from a fan's perspective, because coaches will totally downplay. They will talk about all the other mistakes, all the other things that Indiana could have done to win. And those things are true and factual. But when you can shoot the ball, like teams are not going to play a flawless game. That's just proven. Teams are not, they're going to miss rotations. They're going to miss blockouts. They're going to miss things. And when they do that, you can make up for a lot of that by knocking down some shots. And that's where this team struggles. That's where this team is going to continue to struggle until they figure out a way to make more shots. Archie Miller, I think, would scoff at the fact of me saying, the difference in this game is shooting. And I would sit there and argue back and forth all day long with anyone that it really is. I mean, it really is the ability to knock down shots.
Well, it loosens things up.
It changes like 9
everything.
Different things we could sit here and say it does. Trace Jackson Davis is doing what he's doing when teams are still sagging in on him. Like we all thought, and let's not kid each other here. Like we all went into this season thinking they're going to get a whole lot more out of Christian Lander. They were going to get more out of Leal. They were going to get more out of Galloway and more out of Geronimo. Like that's a fact. Am I stating something that you didn't think?
No, but I think the COVID is really curtailed that, because those guys, those freshmen, they didn't get those non-con games. They didn't get the extra things that most freshmen get.
Look, here's the thing with that, though. You see this all across the country. When a kid comes in and he dominates, no matter if he's a reclassified freshman or a regular freshman or an old freshman like Anthony Leal, it doesn't matter. When they come in and they dominate and deserve to play, they play.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's not happened. Whether they play preseason games or not played preseason games, I'm just saying this is a situation where I think as fans, we could go back and look at what all the message boards and what we were all talking about 4 months ago, 3 months ago, even 2 months ago, when it came to who was going to start, who was going to play. Was Christian Lander going to be a one and done? I mean, the Christian Lander's not playing 10 minutes a game right now. And I'm not saying that to rip Christian Lander. I'm saying this team is, if you would have told us this was going to be the minutes played going into this game a month ago, we would have all said, well, they'll be lucky to not lose by 20.
It's a very different look from
what we thought
3 years of Archie
and what we thought
he rotates.
And what we thought 2 months ago. Everyone, look, when we did the radio show all summer long, Jim, we all sat there and talked about Lander's going to start most likely. We talked about what a big factor Lander's going to be, and he just hasn't been. And I am a gigantic. I think Christian Lander will be an incredible, not just player at IU. He will be really good in the NBA. I'm admitting it's taken longer for him to get acclimated to this team, or for him to be intermingled into the lineup.
Well, let's talk about that shooting. Paul points out guards, 2 of 14. That is a problem. That's not, you cannot have your guards basically not hitting. You can't put up 14 shots and hit 2 of them. That's not going to get you by many games.
Yeah,
I'm shocked that Indiana was able to stay in the game, in this game, without outside shooting because of the length, the size of Florida State. But somehow the Hoosiers were able to overcome that without the outside shooting.
And here's the thing. No, I don't think anyone really considers Florida State like a run and gun outside shooting team. I think they're more of a grind it, pound it inside. Well, Jim, they made 8 for 20. They shoot 40% and they made 8 threes, which what I tell you all the time is you've got to make 7+ 3-pointers to be competitive and win. Now, obviously, Indiana proved me wrong. They were competitive, probably should have won a game without making 7 3-pointers, but you're not consistently going to do that. You're not going to be able to compete in the Big Ten. I mean, you and I can sit here and name. Let's just throw this out there to people who are listening. How many games do you think Indiana will win in the Big Ten if they only make 4 3-pointers per game?
8.
I'll say 5 or 6. I'm being serious. I'm not even trying to be a smart aleck.
I wasn't either. I was
to only make 4 3-pointers. I don't think Indiana will win 2 games all Big Ten long, making 4 or less 3-pointers, and that includes Northwestern, Nebraska, Purdue. Anybody you want to throw in there. They will not win 2 basketball games where they make 4 or less 3-pointers. You can't compete these days. Basketball is different than it used to be. Indiana is a really, really, really good defensive team. They're on the verge of being, I hate to say Virginia-like, but they are very good defensively. Okay, they are way below average offensively, and that's that. I don't. We can all sit there and look at it. You take a team like Virginia. When you limit the possessions that a team like Virginia has, they can't make mistakes defensively because they don't get enough offensive good possessions.
You have to have a Kyle guy.
You've got to have somebody that can get you a bucket. Now, Indiana has a guy who, if he gets the ball, can get you a bucket, but he's not a guard. He can't go get the ball. Somebody's got to get him the ball. Trace Jackson-Davis shoots 15 times tonight. Does he need to shoot 25? Probably. I mean, if Indiana's only going to make 4 3-pointers, Trace Jackson-Davis has probably got to shoot 20+ times in a game.
Yep, James said the same thing earlier, and Keith as well. Keith wants to know, who do you think is the best shot maker on the team? He believes Jerome is. Why is he not in at the end? I don't think Jerome's a shot maker.
Okay, so shot maker meaning like if catch and shoot, like he could stand there and catch and shoot in a game of horse? Probably. Jerome's probably up there with those guys. I mean, he's probably one of the best shooters. Now, when I think of shot maker or bucket getter, I think of a guy who can go get me a bucket without somebody having to drive and kick and throw it to him when you get him open.
Get to the rim.
And somebody that can go create and make a shot. And so what's the answer to that question? I have no idea.
He's going to have to be Christian Landers. The only
right?
guy
That's the guy who's capable of it.
Or Trey Galloway, who different player, but he has shown that ability to try to do that, or the ability to try to make it happen.
Yeah, it just has been inconsistent, and I'll just say they don't look they lack confidence, to say it nicely. I don't think they played very well, the freshmen. But if you want to talk about, you are correct in saying who's the one guy on this team that can go get you a bucket. I think 2 years from now we will say he's going to be a lot like Yogi Ferrell. I think we'll say Christian Lander's that guy. Right now, I don't think there is a bucket getter on this team. I honestly don't. I'm not being a smart aleck. I don't think there is.
No, they have to be developed. Coach Sister pointed out that did Barnes walk on the final shot? Was that?
No, that's a Euro step. That's a Euro step. That's a. He was.
Now, he walked earlier. Who was
he did walk earlier, but they called it. The one they didn't call was atrocious. But that last one's a Euro step. That was a good play. That was a lucky shot, and there's no chance he was planning on it being that way. But I mean, give him credit. He went down in a hurry and made a big shot.
I mean, James points out that something. It seemed like this is something we've talked about for a couple of years, but he says James the teams will pack the paint, and IU's going to struggle. Well, that's what you do when teams can't shoot. But that is something that we've talked about for 2-3 years. I mean, if you were strategizing right now, let's just say we all got to be coach for a day, playing against Indiana. That's what you would do. That's what I would do. I mean, I would pack in There's nothing else that you have to do.
When I coached AAU, my players would laugh hearing me say this sometimes, but we would play against certain AAU teams, and I would consider Indiana a team I would do this against, where you were not allowed to take both feet out of the lane. You had to have 1 foot in the lane at all times. At all times. So you were never allowed to leave the lane with both feet. And just daring them to make shots from the outside, and teams would make a shot here and there. but they weren't consistently good enough to do it. And if I were playing against Indiana right now, that's what I would do.
I was surprised at the moxie Indiana showed, and I think that's good because although this should not be a young team, it is a young team.
Yeah.
We didn't see the freshmen, though, a lot earlier. They didn't get a lot of minutes early on because
they didn't get a lot of minutes at all.
Period. Indiana had everything they had to give to this team. That is also a problem because you've got to be able to count on those guys now. You can't wait till the Big Ten season or till February. They've got to play now.
They really do. I mean, so far all I've done is talk negative about how bad they shot. I mean, they took a team to overtime that's considered one of the better teams in the ACC, if not the best team in the ACC, and they were on the road in a team that's won 24 straight. There was a lot of positives and a lot of good that came out of this game. But we also have to talk about, I mean, you bring up the fact that those guys didn't play a whole lot. I'm thinking back. I don't like to say things that later on someone can bring back up, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I did say that, and I regret it. At least when I say it, I can think to myself, well, this is what I was thinking at the time, and I'm the first one to say I really thought this team was going to be. I thought these freshmen were going to be a bigger impact on the team. If you had told me that this would be the starting lineup and these would be the bulk of the minutes that are played by the guys who played them tonight, I would tell you this team is going to really, really struggle. And they didn't struggle tonight. They played pretty well.
Yeah, I was shocked. But that's hard. It's almost not fair to these freshmen to put that much pressure on them now. Because
you know what? It's 2020 though. It's 2020 though. You know what? It's not 1987 where you gotta pay your dues and you gotta work. You gotta work in and you hopefully play by the time you're a junior. It didn't work that way anymore. It's 2020. Guys, the leading scorers in the country are freshmen. I mean, guys get one and dones. I mean, it's a different era. And you know what?
For Florida State,
when you win the recruiting battles, like Indiana feels like it's done. I mean, they've done a good job recruiting. When these guys come in, they should be producing more. I'm not trying to pick on them. I don't think I'm being, too tough on them by saying I think they expect more out of themselves. I expect more out of them for sure. And I'm sure the coaching staff expected or expects more out of them.
This was almost an incredible stat line for Indiana, and it's pretty good still. You got Al Durham almost to double figures at 9 points. Franklin, 9 points. Fennessy, 9 points. Trey Jackson-Davis with 25. Thompson, 9 points. You almost had 5 guys in double figures.
The whole starting lineup.
Which is good balance, and they did a great job. But there's not a lot to complain about with this game, to be honest with you.
Yeah, six bench points. You can complain about 6 bench points.
Well, they don't have anything. There's nobody coming off the bench. You've got 8 guys playing in this rotation. 2 of those guys are freshmen.
That gives you 3 guys with a chance to score.
Well, the turnovers in the first half, they were horrible. They made such a great change in the second half, but in the first half, you had 9 turnovers. That was way too much. They could have actually probably gave themselves a little buffer because they were right. It was back and forth, but they turned the ball over a ton in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, here's the catch-22 with that. Okay, so are you going to play a super slow down style of basketball where you don't turn it over like a Virginia? I mean, Virginia probably leads the nation in fewest turnovers every single year. 1, because they have the fewest amount of possessions, and 2, because they never push the ball and they play as slow as possible. And so do you want to limit the turnovers by slowing the ball down and slowing play down so that you don't put yourself in a tough position? Or do you want to – I would take a few more turnovers, a few extra turnovers. I mean, what's the happy medium? You'll know what I mean when I say this, but what's the happy medium between Tom Crean's teams and Archie Miller's teams where you're dribbling down the floor as fast as possible, so fast you dribble out of bounds with Tom Crean's team, and then with Indiana's team, you're walking it up the floor so slow you're never going to turn it over. So it's just like, where's the happy medium? And that's where I'll live with some turnovers as long as they're pushing it. As long as they're pushing it.
You got all offense on one, all defense
Look,
on
Michigan
the
State turns the ball over a decent amount because they play so fast. I mean, they get down the floor so fast. And they're
relative.
They're willing to live with a few extra turnovers because they're going to get some easy baskets out of it. Where were the easy baskets tonight? And I know they keep track of it. What's fast break points? Indiana had 5 on the night. Maybe it's 6. I can't see very well.
But 2 years in a row, we've heard about this offense. It's going to be up tempo. It's never. Why does that?
It's always up tempo in the preseason, which we didn't really have this year. But when you start playing the good teams, Indiana scores 67 in 45 minutes. I mean, 5 extra minutes. What was it? 62s at the end of regulation. Indiana's a 58 to 68 point scoring team. Did you agree with that?
Absolutely. And
so look how good you've got to be defensively.
I was just saying that's a scary proposition. When you look at the Big Ten Conference, that is not going to put you in the upper half of the league. You can't make
mistakes. You just can't make mistakes defensively if that's the case. I mean, overall, the way Indiana plays.
And I know everybody wants to hear everything good.
Yeah, I know. That's why I keep trying to not say
this is the honest. I mean, I'm sorry, but do you want to hear the truth, or you want us to lie to you, or tell you the truth? This guy knows he played. I mean, this is what he does, man.
A 62 point. Indiana is a 62 to 65 point scoring team. Like that's, you can choose to, who would you rather watch play right now, the Kansas City Chiefs or the Pittsburgh Steelers? I mean, the old school people.
Great point, because the Steelers they're winning.
They're methodical. They're methodical.
They're undefeated, but who's fun? Who's going to probably end up? Well, I don't want to say who's going to probably end up winning. You don't know that, but it's two different, completely styles.
But take the thing. I don't even know what the records are. I think the records are either identical or within one game. The same. Kansas City and Pittsburgh.
Steelers lost one.
But look at the difference. One is high profile. They probably got sponsors out the wazoo. Who do you see on the Allstate commercials? You see, or State Farm commercials. You see, Mahomes. You don't see Roethlisberger. He's not
100
flashy.
years old, man. He
can
barely walk.
They're not fun to watch unless you're a Pittsburgh Steeler fan or you love the old 1985 Chicago Bears defense. You don't like really watching the Pittsburgh Steelers. When they're on Sunday night, you love watching Kansas City play because you know the ball's going to be flying all over. There's going to be sidearm passes and all that. Well, Indiana offensively is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Indiana's a team at whole. They're good defense. They're really good defensively.
Can they win at that level? If they can win at that level, people will be happy with that.
Will they?
If they win, yes.
In 22,
trumps everything.
Here's my point with that. I agree with you, but my answer to that is I don't think they can consistently win playing that way. I think they'll win some games that they might beat a Michigan State, and you're like, oh my gosh, how do they beat Michigan State? But they're going to have games where they lose to Northwestern or somebody that's going to go and score a lot of points. And Northwestern doesn't score a lot of points, but you get my point. Like they're going to lose some games they should win.
But to me, they played better. And watching them through these last 4 years under Archie, this was one of the better games I've seen them play. That they lost, but I've seen them win some games. They didn't look nearly this good.
Well, I mean, look at
nearly this competitive.
We talked about it last week. If you can erase Texas game out of your mind, okay, and the two games themselves, that Indiana has lost. Texas, you just wanted to throw up after the game. There was not a single positive you could take out of that entire game. This game, we can talk about how many good things there were, how many opportunities that Indiana had to win this game. And that's a much different feeling than it was against Texas. And I don't think that Florida State is a worse team than Texas. I think they're just as good. So did Indiana improve that much, or was Indiana just
Florida State
out of it against? I think so. I think they're better than Texas.
Really?
Yeah. I think Florida State will be
what's the difference? Guard play,
physicality, all of the talent overall. I think Texas is decent. I think they're pretty good. That game, look, they're not 20 points better than Indiana. The game snowballed and got on the wrong side of it, and it just got worse. I mean, that's why I said
watching Trace Jackson Davis tonight. He learned from that game. It was almost like he was pissed off tonight about that game.
Sure.
Because he threw some down. He was rebounding. He was battling. He was fighting.
I'll tell you something.
He got his ass kicked.
Something that he has shown throughout his entire career. But in games like tonight, it really stands out to me. And this is where they can say the NBA, he's not ready for the NBA because he doesn't have that outside jump shot or whatever. There are certain guys who rebound with two hands and are strong with the ball. And I would say Trayce Jackson-Davis is up there in the top 5 I can remember of all time at rebounding the ball with two hands, and you're not getting it from him. When he gets his hands on the ball, that rebound is his, and it's over with.
He definitely looked determined.
And that's something that will stand out to NBA scouts. That's something that it's kind of yes, he's a good rebounder. He's an exceptional rebounder when it comes to his strength, and that's something they usually hope to develop in rebounders a couple years into the NBA. So there's some things that Trayce Jackson-Davis does that are, even way above and beyond what we see in his stat line and those things. 17 rebounds against a team like Florida State tonight is exceptional.
3 guys taller than
exceptional.
6'11".
Yeah.
That's crazy.
3 guys that are all have one thing in mind, and that's block out, race, and trace. I mean, that's the only thing they have to do. And they still were. I mean, I think how many rebounds does Race have? 6. I mean, 23 rebounds out of your big guys, 13 rebounds out of your guards. That's how Indiana was in it.
Trayce Jackson-Davis, I was really impressed. I mean, he was the smallest of those 4 guys. The other 3, he's the smallest.
Sure,
but he was fighting the whole time.
He's physical. He is physical, and he has got vice grips when it comes to getting a hold of the basketball.
And he's going to need that because, like I said, Indiana's thin down there. You don't have Joey Brunk right now. Race Thompson's there helping out, but 6 rebounds, that's nice. But Trayce Jackson doing the bulk of the work, man, and scoring as well. I mean, he was always looking to get to the rim tonight, and he just looked more confident in doing that in traffic than he did against Texas. I think Texas was a great learning lesson for him, especially when you come up against teams like Illinois and Iowa later in the conference season.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. And, we look at it for Trayce Jackson-Davis standards, 8 of 15, he's usually way more efficient than that. Like, that's surprising to me. Yeah, I don't remember him missing that many shots. Now, I do know he tipped in at least 2 of his own misses. So a couple of those misses he even actually scored on that possession. But when you look at overall, I mean, 2 for 10 from Rob Finney, 3 for 9, Armand Franklin. Those guys are 6, 8 for 29. 8 for 29 for your starting 1, 2, and 3 man. That's not going to win. You can have Trayce Jackson-Davis have a career night every single night. He could match his career night, and they're not going to win at 8 for 29.
I thought Indiana was going to win this game after everything that Indiana fans had dealt with today with the screw job by the Big Ten. Last night you had the college football committee. I'm just glad we have to talk about that crap because I talked about it on the show, and I was so pissed off. I'm glad we have to deal with that today. It's crazy, all that stuff dealing with. But I thought Indiana was going to pull this game out and really kind of turn the fortunes for Hoosier fans today because it was great. But, man, the effort, you got to be happy and you got to be excited for them because, hey, who expected them to win this game? Not many people. Maybe they did. I didn't expect them to win this game. I also expected them to be deeper in the hole most of the time. They battled. They had a shot to win this game, and that is nothing but very confident for this team going forward.
Yep, I agree with you. I mean, when you look at it, I'll throw you into it, but I get pretty focused on individual things that happen in the game. But if you and I had sat down before the season and marked out, okay, do we think they're going to win this game? Do we think they're going to win this game? At the Florida State on the road, we would have both probably said no. And
especially after Texas.
But even prior to all that, I mean, we would have probably marked the Texas game as a win, and we would have marked the Florida State game as still a loss. I mean, because this is not a game you expect to win on the road. It's a true road game against a really, really good team that's well coached and plays hard and plays physical. And this is a lot like a Big Ten game. Like Florida State, there's not very many ACC teams that play kind of Big Ten style, but Florida State is one of them. So that is if you could choose a team for Indiana,
like Wisconsin, aren't they?
They're just big and physical. They're kind of usual, typical Michigan State like. Michigan State's better offensively this year than they normally are. Guards, but this is a team that you want to play against when you didn't have all the preseason games and all that other stuff, because this is going to tell you how you're going to do in the Big Ten for the most part. I mean, Indiana competed against a very, very good, big physical team on the road And if they can have that kind of performance in the Big Ten, they've got a decent chance.
Man, it was a great night for them. They didn't get the win. It's not as good as it could be. They're back on Sunday. They take on North Alabama, one of those non-con games that man, that should be just what Indiana needs right now.
One of the few get right games you got all preseason.
There are very few of those, but fortunately for Indiana, they're not far off. They don't need much to get right. They're right there, and it's a good sign to see. Man, we're at Yogi's, by the way. Just want to make sure if you guys are out in Bloomington, come out around. Look at here. Oh, man, we can show. There's some people out tonight loaded up.
There was a lot more earlier, I can tell you that.
Yeah,
mostly masked up.
For a while,
mostly masked up.
See, mask. Say hi to mask. Got some mask on. Good deal. Make sure if you come on out and join us if you want to anytime. We'll be back every week, but each game, looking forward to that, and I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Looking forward to Sunday. We don't have a game on Saturday football. The bucket game's been canceled, so we don't have that. We're hoping that Indiana's going to be playing Iowa, maybe at Lucas Oil next Friday. We'll see how that turns out, but we got basketball now. So, but if Indiana can continue to play like this, it's going to be a fun season.
Hold on a minute. I've been out of the loop. What's the Indiana-Iowa game? Are they adding a game?
Well, there's a crossover game, which was already scheduled. After they're going to play.
So this has been a playing game all along?
Yes,
okay, my bad.
Like first place first, second place second across the divisions.
I got you.
But the biggest deal here is because Indiana got screwed out of the Big East, the Ohio State, and all that crap. Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten. Let's don't kid ourselves. But they didn't meet the standards set by everybody that everybody agreed to it. And it's not going to hurt Ohio State to not play in the damn Big Ten championship game.
Do you not think so?
They'd have been better off playing Iowa. Iowa's the best team in the West. Iowa's the best team in the West. What's beating Northwestern going to do for them? Nothing. Northwestern is not that good. Indiana would have beat them by 2 touchdowns, I think. They're nice, but they're the 4th best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion.
The only way I looked at it, the only way that I looked at it was you have to have, if you're the Big Ten, you've got to do anything you can possibly do to make sure that Ohio State plays in the college football playoff.
But they're already going to be in.
Financially, we think that. I'm just saying playing in that game.
Iowa is
guarantees.
A better game for them because Iowa's a better team.
But do you want a better game?
If you're trying to look at them and say, hey, how good is this team? Well, they just beat it.
What are you doing with the camera? What you got going with the camera?
I have no idea.
Oh, you have to hold it. You have to hold it because
I messed the thing up now, so I don't know what I'm doing with it. Man, I turned it around.
Here's just the way I look at it. I think
it screws our social distancing.
I think that the Big Ten had to do whatever they had to do to get Ohio State into financially. As bad as everything already is, I think that they would have done anything.
They were in. I think they were in, but. That's a discussion for another day.
So would it matter to you? Would it matter to you if Indiana played? Man, I'm going to get beat up for this. But would you rather Indiana play in the Big Ten championship and win it with an asterisk next to it that says Ohio State didn't qualify?
There's no asterisk.
Would you take
they didn't qualify?
But why didn't they qualify?
Because they didn't play enough games.
But that was an arbitrary number that they just randomly picked out of nowhere.
No, they didn't arbitrarily. But here's another
thing. Then why'd they pick it?
Mathematical. How many? But here's the thing. They canceled the Illinois game without meeting the threshold set by the Big Ten. They chose to cancel the Illinois game because they wanted to play those last 2 games. Well, they screwed themselves. And to me, I'm like, hey, you roll the dice, man. You go to Vegas, they don't give you second chances, baby.
Here's the thing that I'll just say in my part of the conversation on that is you said it a minute ago. There isn't any question Ohio State's the best team in the Big Ten. So that answers all. That answers all the questions. I'd love to see Indiana play them again. I mean, if we can all sit here all day long at the end of the basketball season, we could all sit here and go, this is what they should do. They should let these teams play these teams. We can all sit there and do that and probably be right, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Playing with the camera here. Here's the.
All right.
Where's Todd's?
It's not even late. It's not even late.
There you go. If you guys get a chance, there you go. Come on, Vince, the Yogis. We appreciate everybody here. Todd, Have a great night. We'll be back on Sunday as
early Sunday, early game, noon.
Finally, the
Noon
Hoosiers
game.
taking on North Alabama. We don't have a football game this weekend, so that kind of sucks. But I hope everybody has a great night. We really appreciate you guys. Join us on Indiana Sports Beat. What is tomorrow? Thursday?
Yep.
I'm losing days of the week, so we'll be there tomorrow. So hope everybody has a great night. We appreciate you guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm Jim Coyle. I'll see you on the radio.